you are.
That is not me. You say that every year. Look, Bobo, there you are. I am not that woman.
Too bad.
What?
Was too bad you're not that woman. Because if you were, then we wouldn't be having this discussion.
We're not having a discussion. You brought it up. Look, Bobo, there you are.
Well, you have to admit, she is attractive.
Yeah, she is.
And so are you.
Aw, you're so sweet.
I love you.
I love you too.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you, sweetheart.
Do you realize that some of those people we're watching now are dead?
Howard.
I'm serious. How long have we been married?
25 years.
Right. That person right there, dead. That lady, she's lucky if she had 5 years.
I do not care to continue this conversation.
That boy, probably married, has 8 kids. Might as well be dead.
I'm not listening.
Cocktail waitress, hit hard times, became a hooker, married a lounge singer, got run over on the way home from Weight Watchers, dead. We're the lucky ones, you and me. Vacation survivors. Male, 20 yards, 11 o'clock, small head. Might still be alive? Probably not.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
I said, I love you, Bobo. Yes, I do.
I love you, sweetheart. I truly do.
When you're not with me, I'm blue.
Oh, baby, I love you.
I love you.
I love you. He's here.
All right, now, just stay calm.
I'm calm. How do I look?
Like that woman by the pool.
You are impossible.
How do I look?
11 o'clock guy with a pinhead.
Really?
I really want to be on this game show. You know it's my favorite.
Believe me, I know.
Okay, let's just get this, okay?
All right, we'll do just fine. Now remember, just act natural.
I'm acting natural. Hurry, just turn off the projector.
Right.
Why, hello. Do come in. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, lady. I'm Don Patrillo from the Married 25 Years and Over game show. Greetings.
Please come in. Oh, welcome to our home.
Lady, relax.
I can't tell you how excited we are that you're here.
Yeah, I'm jumping in my jockeys, too. Okay, now, you two on the couch, I'm in the chair.
Couldn't tell we've been living here for 25 years, I bet.
Did lose. They all live in their homes for 25 years.
With 900 square foot add-ons?
I know all about it. The patio covers, the porch swings, the pools. Happy people, huh? Loving people, smiles, laughter, joy. I hate it. Look, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. So don't think for 1 minute I don't know what you're doing. I'm tired. I'm hungry. You're my 5th interview today, and I want to go home. So let's do it. I ask the questions, you give the answers. Sit. Name?
O'Dell.
Oh, joy. Married how long?
25 years. As a matter of fact, today is our wedding anniversary.
Still do it?
Do what?
You know, it. Mat the grass, hide the salami, plant the flag at Iwo Jima.
Once a day. Twice on holidays.
Howard!
Good answer, but you're lying. Kids? Grandkids? Pets?
Kids, yes. Grandkids, no.
We did have a dog, but he recently passed away.
Terrific. He's fertilizer. Line 10, no pets. Almost done. Hobbies?
We enjoy traveling.
In fact, Bobo, why don't you get the lights?
Wrong.
Good idea.
No, not a good idea. Wait.
Alaska Highway, 1966.
Shut it off.
What a trip that was.
Please, shut it off.
2 weeks in the wilderness.
Shut it off.
A beautiful country that was. It reminds me a lot of Freedom Bay.
You know, I hadn't really thought about that.
Of course. Look at it. Look at the trees, the water. That's where we first met.
I'm thrilled. Hit the lights.
What was the name of the play we were doing?
You don't remember?
No.
And I suppose you forgot what you found when you checked into your hotel room?
Ah, Mr. Patrillo, that is something I'll never forget. There was a woman in my room.
Every man's dream. Now hit the lights.
She was sitting at the front of my bed in this chair. I mean, just sitting in my room. And I thought, my God.
I was in his room because I had arrived earlier and my room wasn't ready. It was as simple as that.
There she was, in my room. I mean, I didn't know this woman. I can tell you, I mean, she was kind of annoying and pushy.
No kidding.
She was acting as though it was her room. Like all actors, we exchange resumes, to determine who the senior actor was, who was going to be the boss. I remember thinking, I thought, my God, she looks like a cowgirl.
I did not. I did not look like a cowgirl.
Yee-hi-yippee-yi-yay.
I looked like a regular person.
She had all this red hair, and I thought, just give her a guitar and she'd probably do well in a country bar. One of those girls who chews gum and paints her toenails. Anyway, we were just sitting there.
Well, that just about wraps it up for me.
But I remember thinking, I was sitting on the bed, and I was just looking at her, and this silly thought came through my head, and it said, you're going to marry her. And I remember smiling.
And I remember seeing that smile.
This little smile came across my face, and I thought, I'm afraid not. She is the last thing in the world that I would marry. Well, and that was it. I mean, I didn't dislike her. It was just that she was pushy. So anyway, we did the play. During the play, she kind of assumed that, she had center stage. Well, I gotta tell you, I belong center stage, so I knew we were gonna have a conflict.
And our characters interacted a lot, In the play, these two characters were like a team.
Yeah, they were a team. I mean, all the characters that we played over the next few months were characters who played opposite each other. Now, our relationship was primarily professional. I was very much
A loner. Actually, I really thought you were very shallow.
an isolationist, Mr. Patrillo. I was there to do the job, to do the show. I wasn't interested in any sort of personal relationship. I mean, in fact, I didn't want any personal relationship while doing the show, because it's kind of messy. Like ships crossing in the night, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, that didn't stop that chorus girl from rubbing your back and your neck, did it?
Yeah, but I wasn't doing the show with her. It's a different thing.
Completely, yeah. Now that that's settled.
Anyway, we did the show. I mean, we worked quite intimately together because, we were acting. I do remember one day I was thinking, oh, Howard, you got to be careful. Watch what you're doing here. And the next moment I said to her, how would you like to go and look through some thrift stores? I mean, I was always poor. I was always looking through thrift stores for cheap quality clothing. Well, she said, yeah, she'd like to go. She was like butter melting.
I was not. I just simply agreed to go. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd just broken rehearsal, and you said you wanted to go poke around some thrift shops.
Kinda like butter melting. So, we went. It was kind of fun. I mean, it seems like an odd thing to do, Go to thrift stores, pick up pots and pans and old shirts.
Yeah, great, terrific. You're wonderful. You're both charming. You're hired. Sign here.
But what struck me as very odd and very curious was the fact that you picked up a piece of clothing and you turned to me and you said,
this is your size.
That's right. And I thought, how would he know it's my size? I mean, I don't even know if it's my size unless it says so inside. And you said,
I know what your body looks like.
Right. So you had been doing some looking.
Well, I hadn't been looking sexually. I'd just been looking.
Right.
Now, if you're talking about the times that we went sailing together, that's when I really started looking. Mr. Patrillo, women and water, water and women, wet T-shirts.
Do you remember where that was?
Diamond Lake.
Diamond Point.
That's right. How did you know that?
What do you think? I don't travel, lady?
Bobo, what was the play we were doing?
You don't remember? Of course you don't. I had to help you through that play because you couldn't remember the words to the songs we sang together.
I'm not listening.
You had to watch my lips so you'd know what the words were because you had no idea.
Bobo always makes more of this than it is, of course, which is understandable. One thing you can be assured of is that I never looked at her lips. I was always looking somewhere else, out to the house, in the audience. I was performing. Some points in the play, we would be holding hands or be arm in arm or some such thing, and I could feel the pressure of her arms or hands squeezing my arms, as if to say that I was singing too fast or too slow, or perhaps the wrong verse. Fortunately, it didn't bother me what she thought, because I was going to sing what I was going to sing, which is what I did.
We were sharing a cabin on the lake with some of the other actors and the director. And the guy who owned the house had a sailboat that was about 6 feet long. It was a little tiny thing, really only big enough for one person. But you could sort of cram 2 people in if you really worked at it.
Wait. Hold it. What happened to the thrift shops?
I thought you weren't listening.
I'm not. But while I'm not, I don't want to hear some A to B to G and back to C kind of story. It's confusing, okay?
There were no thrift shops there, only cabins.
Thank you.
Anyway, the owner of the cabin left the sailboat at the house, and he said that we could use it if we wanted to.
We really didn't know anything about sailing, but we took the boat out a few times.
Once. We took the sailboat out once.
A number of times.
Sometimes she has trouble counting.
And sometimes he has trouble sleeping on the couch.
I really don't think that Mr. Patrillo cares to hear about that.
He's right. He's absolutely right. Stop the film. Stop the story. Stop everything. Really, I'm not kidding. Look, I just have 2 more questions.
As I remember, it wasn't a very large lake.
Okay, we'll make it 1. 1 question. An easy
But it
one.
was big enough for sailboats and speedboats, things like that.
Forget the question.
Anyway, we'd gone out a few times, and this one day we had a show to do in the evening, and we decided we'd go out in the boat.
So, I carried the boat down to the lake.
We dragged the boat.
I carried the boat.
Okay, he thinks he carried the boat. Now, there were an awful lot of whitecaps out there, and that's when we noticed that there was nobody else on the lake.
There were a few fishermen.
Since nobody else was around, we thought, great, we had the lake to ourselves. Now, the wind was pretty stiff, but somehow we managed to get the sailboat in the water, get in, and push off. Out in the middle of the lake, there's this island, which is, I don't know, a mile away? 2 miles, 3 miles, 5 miles? I can't calculate.
Has trouble counting.
Well, anyway, you could see it. We got into this boat, and we turned it toward the island, and I'm not kidding, this thing took off like a bat out of hell. Yeah, it went flying so fast, I thought we were going to overrun the island, or maybe we even just plow right on through it.
Come on, plow through it.
She also tends to exaggerate.
That's what I said, plow right on through it.
Yes, we were sailing. No, we were not out of control. Yes, we were going fast. No, we were not about to cut a landmass in half.
We recognized immediately that the wind was too strong, and I knew there was a reason that there was nobody else on the lake except us.
Except for the fishermen.
All right, 1 fisherman.
With 6 boats.
Anyway, we were zipping along these whitecaps, at which point Howard, who was now in full-blown panic, said to me, Bobo, don't panic. Help me pull down the sail.
I did not ask for help.
He asked for help. The boom was flapping back and forth all around. The idea was to take the mainsail down and sail with that little sail in the front.
The jib. It's called the jib.
We kept standing up in the boat, trying to get that big sail down. And finally we got it down, and then we tried to sail with just this little thing in the front.
That jib! Why can't you say that jib? It's the jib! That jib!
Jib. Are you happy?
Yes.
Now, the problem was, sailing with just the jib, the boat wouldn't go back and forth. And so every time the wind was supposed to take us to shore, we just whipped that little sail around and turned it right back in the other direction. It took us farther and farther and farther down the lake shore, and we struggled, and we thought we were going to die. I was sure it was the end.
Tell me about it.
Now, I'm not a good swimmer, and I thought I was going to drown.
I would never let you drown.
You mean that?
I love you.
I love you too.
I'd love to get the hell out of here.
So, anyway, we struggled as best we could. And finally, we managed to get the boat near the shore. My husband did all the work.
No. You helped too.
Well, maybe just a little.
Really? I mean, I couldn't have done it without Bobo.
At this point, we were 10 feet from the shore.
15.
And probably over a mile away from where we had originally started.
2 miles.
At that point, we realized there was nothing to do but jump overboard and drag the boat along the shoreline. Howard was in the back and I was in the front, and we walked that boat the entire mile.
2 miles.
Back to the shoreline, to the dock where we had originally started.
Great. End of story. I'm out of here.
Honey, why don't you show him the shotgun?
Now, you gotta remember, on the bottom of this lake there were boulders and rocks. We were stumbling with every footstep, pushing against the current with all the strength we had. It was grueling.
He's right. It took some effort.
Some effort.
Okay, it took a lot of effort. I'm just glad we were wearing our sneakers. Howard told me I was just like his very own Katharine Hepburn. He always wanted to know Katharine Hepburn because he thought she was one of those stalwart sort of, comrade type women. And this, of course, made me one of those stalwart comrade type women who helped her man carry a boat in the water. It moved me right up on his list of leading women.
Oh, yeah, she was great. When we got back, it was late in the afternoon, and the director of the play, he was in the house. Let me tell you, Mr. Patrillo, he was not a happy camper. He cornered us in the kitchen, both of us still dripping wet. He was pacing back and forth, back and forth. He was so mad, I thought he was going to explode. And if that weren't enough, he had this shotgun that we'd taken up to the cabin for protection. And he approached us. He stood there, giving us this long, hard look. And finally, words came out of his mouth. Oh, Mr. Patrillo, Bobo, do you remember what he said?
Yeah.
What?
It was pretty funny.
He said what?
Remember his face?
Do I ever?
What did he say?
Well, you tell it, honey. I can't tell it the way you can.
Say it.
He said,
If you two died,
"What would I do for actors tonight?"
I'll never forget how many thrift shops you took me through that day.
We did have a good time, didn't we?
Hold it. I thought you said there were no thrift shops on the lake.
There aren't. At the lake.
I laughed and laughed.
Go figure.
And that carried over into our performances.
He made me pee on stage one night, remember?
It's called acting urination.
I had said to him, now don't make me laugh because you'll make me pee on stage. And then he decided that was exactly what he was going to do. Remember you made that entrance that was so outrageous it stopped the whole show because I had pee running down my legs into my shoes.
Which I have to tell you is quite an image, seeing somebody's stocking fill up with urine. Anyway, we did the show, hella fun. That's kind of it.
Wonderful story. Well worth the wait. Can I please go?
In the theater, everybody tends to become very close and huggy and so on. And when it came time for the departure, I really didn't want to become involved because I knew that these girls, they were going to get weepy, and I thought it best be avoided. So, I went home.
And I went home to my family.
Wait a minute. What do you mean family? You were married?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention that?
No. During the production, we were offered another play. Of course, we were playing the two leads, and they were husband and wife. That required us to work very closely together, spending a lot of our time together both during the rehearsal and after the rehearsal.
But we also came up with some really good business.
I had a very strong sense that I didn't want to be invaded by this woman.
Nobody was trying to invade you. I don't know why you keep thinking you were being invaded. I was just doing my job.
Of course, being a married woman, Bobo had no understanding of what being invaded was. She was the invader. I did accommodate her somewhat, and she would spend some time in my room.
At your invitation, working.
At my invitation, working. I'm sure people thought we were fooling around in there.
Which we weren't.
Well, not yet. But we did spend a lot of time behind closed doors. Working on the show.
So, the show ended up being a success and we had great reviews.
That's right. When it was over, I was heading home to San Francisco. She was heading home to Seattle. Nothing had taken place. We'd just done a couple of shows together, that's all.
That's it.
What do you mean that's it? You said people thought you were fooling around. And then you said, which we weren't. And then you said not yet.
Correct.
So when was it?
What?
The fooling around. When was the fooling around?
Oh, that's another story. But we know you're pressed for time.
You think I'm stupid, don't you? I know what you're doing.
What do you mean?
You want me to ask you to go on, don't you?
Well, it's up to you.
And you probably guessed I would figure that out. So what you really want me to do is not to ask you to go on. But I'm not going to do that. So go on.
So after that, I went home and auditioned for another play.
I'm not that stupid.
I was auditioning for the lead in a Shakespearean play that was going to be staged in Ashland, Oregon. I got the part. So I was off to Ashland to do another show. The summer was here, and when I got there, I discovered that the woman playing my wife was in fact Bobo. I mean, I don't know how that happens. This woman I really tried to avoid. I'd done 2 plays with her. I was glad to see the last of her. And now in this small town in Oregon, she shows up. I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Playing your wife.
Playing my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, presuming now even more into my life. You knew I was there.
I did not. Our director did. Anyway, you were delighted to see me, though, sitting on that green bench in front of that old hotel.
Not really. I mean, I was not delighted to see you on that bench. I was surprised.
You were delighted.
You want to know when I was delighted to see you? I was delighted to see you when I returned from that hike. That was delighted.
Of course you were delighted. You almost died. That was a stupid thing to do.
Now, wait a minute. It was not stupid. I mean, it may not have been a wise thing to do, but it wasn't stupid. I mean, I admit at the time I was a little suspicious, but the idea of going backpacking with the guys sounded interesting.
Was stupid. Our friend Steve came up with this idea. I could have killed him.
Now, I'm 180 pounds, and I thought, well, maybe it'd be okay. I mean, the thing about backpacking is, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but maybe there's something about it that I really don't know about. You know, some kind of hidden pleasure.
It was stupid. Especially for someone like you who complains about climbing up a flight of stairs.
Have you ever had a backpack on your back? Well, let me tell you, it's like carrying a cow on your back. You walk for miles. Finally, you get to where you're going. You take the backpack off your back. You eat. If you're lucky, you sleep. You put the backpack back on your back, and you walk all the way back to where you started. I mean, I never really understood the point. But there you go. Steve, my friend, Steve has a way of getting you to agree to things you might not otherwise do.
I almost became a widow that weekend.
Now, you have to understand, Steve is a very enthusiastic guy. And when Steve became enthusiastic, I became enthusiastic. Another friend, Michael, he was going to go with us. He became enthusiastic too. And as you probably figured out by now, Bobo wasn't that enthusiastic. She really didn't think it was a good idea, this backpacking trip.
That's right. It simply meant he would go out there, he would die somewhere in the woods, a bear would eat him, I don't know. He would be dead, and I would be alone. But you have to let little boys do little boy things. You know, go off in the woods, bond with all the other little boys, and then when their knapsacks are empty, they'll all come home, eat, and sit back and watch lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Now, I went out to Steve's house the night before to load the backpacks. We laid everything out on the floor. We had a ton of stuff. Flashlights, batteries, food, lots of food. I made macaroni and cheese. That was bright. Macaroni and cheese is 99% water and 1% egg stuff. And I also brought a portable CB. You gotta have a CB. And a gun. We talked about bringing a gun. After all, if we ran into a bear, well, it was sort of left up to everybody's discretion, but I wanted a gun. I've seen bears up close, and I wasn't going to be in a position of having to talk to a bear without a loaded gun. And of course, guns weigh a lot.
Okay, so you went hiking.
So, it's bright and early the next morning. We're all ready to go. It's Michael, it's Stephen, and it's me. And off we go. We're driving into the country, 3 guys bonding. And all of a sudden, Michael produces a pipe. Why does he have this pipe? And then I notice as we drive further down the road, the more I look at him, the more he starts to look like Humphrey Bogart. And you have to understand that Michael is really a handsome guy. He'd be in movies. I wish I looked like that. So we were driving for a couple of hours, and finally we came to the mountain, and we started to go up. The road is winding up around the mountain, and it occurs to me then, I thought, I guess there's a spot on the top of this mountain, a flat spot. That's where we're going to do the backpacking, on the flat spot. Eventually, we came to this parking lot. We got out of our car, we unloaded all our gear, do some final stuffing of things into the backpack, and we get everything loaded on our backs. Now, I gotta tell you, I don't know about these other guys, but my backpack was really heavy. I adjusted it, I moved it around a bit. I'm not kidding, it was pulling me this way and that way. And I think, Howard, you'll be fine. You'll be okay. We're ready to go. The 3 of us, the 3 guys. We're gonna bond all over the place now. We asked a couple of forest rangers who were there to take a picture of us in the parking lot. The 3 mountain men. And they did. And I could see them thinking.
We'll be rescuing the fat guy later. Never ever take a fat guy on a hike.
So, We loaded our packs on our backs, and I'm not kidding, mine is getting heavier. And we turn, we face the mountain. 1, 2, 3, off we go. 5 feet into the hike, my backpack triples in weight. Something is going on that I don't know about. I mean, I don't say anything to the other guys. I wonder if their backpacks have tripled in weight. Not Michael. No, he's doing just fine. Michael's moving up the hill. He looks great. There goes Steve. Steve's not having a problem. I mean, I am impressed. So I say to myself, Howard, just kind of run up the hill like horses do when they want to get the hill over with, get it behind them. And I do this soft gallop up the hill. And I mean, holy hell, it is incredibly difficult. I mean, I thought this would be great, but my body is working hard. I mean, I can feel my legs gripping onto the trail, carrying me up the mountain. I can't do this. I can't backpack. The bonding is out the window. It's gone. My legs are shaking deeply. And I scratch my way to the top of this hill. I mean, this hill was only 12 feet high. I mean, I'm at the top of the hill, and I'm panting from deep within my lungs. I haven't breathed this deep in my lungs in 25 years, and I'm thinking, I can't do this. And now, Stephen and Michael, who are ahead, they stop and they turn, and Stephen says, "Isn't this great? Isn't this just great? Look at those trees. Just look at those trees." And Michael nods his head in the affirmative, and his pipe is stuck, gripped in his teeth. I mean, I'm waiting for someone to call, "Cut!" Say, "Hey, great take there, Michael." But the thought continues to go through my head. This was a bad idea. I think that this is going to be the longest day of my life. I look up, and Michael, he's moving up the trail. I mean, there he goes, and Steve's close behind him. But I can't stop. I can't say to these guys, "Well, I'm 12 feet into the journey and I quit. You guys go ahead. I'll wait for you in the car." So I pull myself together. I calm down and I say to myself, "Howard, this is really simply a matter of will." I mean, in situations like this, people utilize their will. They bring their will forward. I turn, I look up the trail, and away I go. And I think, that's it. You're going now, Howard. You're going. Just keep leaning forward, and it'll help you up the hill. I get 40 feet up the hill, and all of a sudden, I can't move my legs. I cannot move my legs. There is no oxygen in my blood at 7,800 feet. I can feel my lungs now. I mean, they're like 2 little tiny monkey lungs in my chest. They're not big enough to hold all the oxygen I need. So I'm standing there looking up the trail, and Michael has turned and he's looking at me, and I can see it in his eyes. Why did we bring the fat guy? Never bring a fat guy when you climb a mountain. And I can feel the strength coming back into my legs now, and I move on. And I'm going again. This is great. I mean, that's using your beam. Just stop when your legs won't move. Rest, then off you go. So, I think, lock your knees, Howard. Lock your knees like a horse. Turn away from the sun because it's draining all your energy. Yeah. And off I go up the trail. And there's Steve and Michael. And they have their packs off and they're drinking water. They look at me with that kind of look on their faces. Like, oh, look. Look at Howard. He's all red. He's fat. And he's red. And he's covered in sweat. They guide me toward a big boulder and they help me off with my pack. Now, nobody's going to say, "Howard, you were a mistake." They just say, "Oh, Howard, great. Would you like some water?" Then Steve starts at it again. "Look at that tree. Look at that big redwood tree." And I'm thinking to myself, I've seen redwoods. I don't need to be here. Steve announces it's time to move up the trail. And off we go. Every now and then I see Steve way up the trail. He looks about 1 inch high. And then he spreads his arms out like he's crucified. "Hey, look at these trees." 3 hours later, I am on the brink of death. Now I truly know this was a mistake.
Cheese doodle?
Maybe later. So what did you do?
I cannot give you any idea of what it felt like to be inside my body. I was dying. People were coming down the trail, and they didn't want to look me in the eye, 'cause I'd see it. Then we'd all know the fat guy can't do it. They'd say things like, hey, don't worry, it'll be great. You'll make it. You'll be just fine. And this one girl said to me, take tiny steps. Take one tiny step at a time. Yeah, drop dead. I'm a fat guy. I'll be dead by the end of the afternoon. And there are tears inside my eyes. I mean, I hope Michael and Steve don't come back now. How will I explain the tears? The fat guy's crying now. And I catch up to Michael and Steve and say, how far do you think it is? And they say, oh, it's not far now, Howard. And they're lying, of course. Hours later, Steve comes down the trail and, he's jumping all over the place. And he says, it's there. It's there. We're almost there. The summit. It's just ahead of us. And I think, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. I'm making it to the summit. Don't cry. Steve will see you crying. And then Michael appears. He doesn't have his backpack on. He's just zooming down the hill. And he comes up to me and he says, hey, Howard, give me your backpack. And I thought, my God, he's going to take my backpack. He's going to carry my backpack. I've been carrying this cow on my back for hours. And now the cow's gone. And I still only get 40 feet to the lungful. My legs move, and I get to the summit. Steve, he's jumping from rock to rock saying, oh, wow, this is God's country. I mean, this is beautiful. Look at that view. And Michael, he's standing there on a rock, and he's got his pipe in his mouth. His hat's cocked to one side of his head. I mean, he looks great. Why does he always look great? Michael looks fantastic. Steve looks great. I look like hell. And Steve says, Howard, look. Look over the edge. It's a sheer drop for 500 feet. I mean, I never saw it. I couldn't lift up my head. It's too heavy. My chin was embedded in my chest. I'm thinking, I'm going to have a heart attack. I just want to go home. I don't give a damn about this. If this is bonding, then I don't want to do it. So we stayed there, I don't know, 20 minutes. It felt like 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe we could just go back now. Maybe they're all backpacked out. And then Michael says, well, I guess we ought to get going. I'll just go on up ahead. You guys take your time. Yeah, right, let the fat guy take his time. And Steve says, okay, let's go. Let's get those backpacks on. Wow, this is great. And I'm thinking, all right, Howard, you've made it all the way up here. You're alive. Now just stay calm. Breathe slowly, and just take tiny steps. You'll be okay. We start up the hill, and then there's another hiker. He's coming down the hill. He's got this fishing rod in his hand, and he's got this stupid smile on his face. And Steve asks him, hey, how far is it to the lake? And this guy says, oh, this is the most difficult part of the trip. The most steep, the most rocky, the most dangerous. So he says to this guy, well, it's not very far, is it? And this guy says, if you make the time, it's probably an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. And Steve, he's trying to keep my spirits up, so he says, well, how are those campsites? I mean, are they really great? And this guy says, oh, you can't camp there. It's against the law. You have to go on to the next lake, which is over another mountain, which is also difficult. And I'm truly afraid now. I mean, now, absolutely for sure, I know I can't do this. I'm going to have a heart attack on this mountain. We're now at 9,000 feet, and I'm going to die. This is going to be the end of my life. Bobo was right. I can't do this. I'm a fat person. And I look at Steve, and he looks at me with this smile on his face like we're going on some kind of kiddie ride at the carnival. And he says to me, Howard, small hills, little tiny hills, one little tiny hill at a time. There's no reason to rush. It'll just be great when we get to camp. Oh, boy! And I can't look up the trail anymore. I mean, if I look up the trail, my will cave in underneath me. I know it. I'm dying. This is the process of dying. Steve keeps on talking to me. Just around the bend, Howard, you're not going to believe this tree. It's beautiful. And I know that there are tears in my eyes. I'm sure Steve can see them. But I don't care anymore because I'm dying. And we're starting to lose the light now. And I'm thinking, oh God, the light's going. It's slipping through my fingers. I can feel it. I'm gonna die in the dark, alone in the dark, and they're gonna have to get a helicopter with a horse harness to carry my carcass out of here. I'll just be this dead fat guy on the trail, and the ranger's gonna be in the helicopter, and he's gonna say, there's the fat guy, there's the fat guy. I knew we were gonna have to get the fat guy out of here. And I say to Stephen, look, Stephen, there's only one trail. There's nowhere for me to get lost. You go on ahead. You find Michael. He'll need help setting up the tent. I mean, I have a flashlight with 4 incredibly heavy batteries in it. I'll find you. And Steve looks at me, and I can see it in his eyes. He's thinking, I can't let him die here alone on the trail. I brought him up here. If he's gonna die, I want to be here with him so I can hear his last words, so I can tell Bobo what he said, that he loved her when he died on the trail in the dark. And we stumble on, and we see the trail starts to go down. I can't believe it. I've died almost 5 times, for sure. And it's gonna be downhill now. Oh my God, this is wonderful. And the hill turns downward, and all the weight on my back shifts, and I start to go downhill, kind of falling, stumbling down the hill. But all the weight shifts into the toes of my boots. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's gonna hurt going down the hill too. What am I gonna do? I know by now that the tears must be rolling down my face. I mean, is nothing in life easy? And I think, oh God, what if a bear comes now? A wounded animal. Where's my gun? Can I lift my gun? And Steve, he's way ahead. And he says, there it is. I can see it. It's beautiful, Howard. It's unbelievable. It's green. That's why they call it Emerald Lake. We're there. And I think, water. Water. I'm gonna go in the water. I'm gonna cool my body down. That'll be great. It'll be wonderful. And we stop. We rip off the backpacks. My head's dizzy, and I'm kind of wobbly. And I think, oh, thank you, God. Thank you for not killing me. I'll die on level ground. I won't die on that trail in the dark. And I think, oh, thank God we brought the bottle of Jack Daniels. Always bring the bourbon. And I drank. And the bourbon was running down and running through my mouth, ripping through my esophagus, smashing into my stomach. Oh, man, this is wonderful. Thank you, God, for not killing me. And thank you for letting me bring the bourbon. And I gave it to Steve, and he had a hit. And it's just wonderful. And we're looking at each other. This is great. We're bonding. Now we're bonding. But where's Michael? He was supposed to wait for us here. And all I can think about is camping here. I mean, screw the law. I'll go to San Quentin for illegal camping. But Michael's not here. Michael's gone on with our tent. Half the food. Across the next mountain to the big lake. I mean, we have no choice. We must go on or die in the jaws of a wild beast. So with the last bit of strength I have, I somehow managed to lift that cow back onto my back. And now I'm going to go up another mountain. Oh, man, why did I come here? The bourbon's made me feel slightly better, but not much. Bringing the bourbon was wise. It's funny where you find wisdom. It's almost dark now, and Steve can see the lake. I'm just going down the trail in a glazed state. Just go forward, Howard. You'll be fine. You'll arrive. Lie down. There'll be a fire. You can go in the water. You can do stuff. Just go forward. And then finally it's there, the camp. And Michael is sitting there. The pipe's in his mouth. His hat is cocked on the side of his head. And I look at him, and he looks just great. I'm standing on an incline, and a gentle breeze blows me over. I fall backwards onto the ground. My knees are locked. I'm standing, but I'm lying on the ground. I don't understand. I'll just rest here. You guys set up the tent. Do the guy stuff. Put up the tent. Take it down. Burn it. I don't care. Where's the fire? It's getting cold. And Michael says we're not allowed to have fires up here. If we do, the Rangers will see the smoke. They'll come and arrest us and take us off to prison. Nothing would please me more. I don't believe it. 3 white guys from suburbia worrying about a fire in the middle of the forest where no ranger in his right mind would ever venture into. I just don't get it. I come all the way up here and I can't even look good in front of a fire. Instead, I have to look good in front of a stupid little 2-inch butane camper stove that's not even big enough to cook with. Oh, hell, what's the point? Oh, God, life can be difficult sometimes. 30 minutes later, we somehow managed to heat some chili. 200 pounds less for the hike home. After dinner, Michael and Steve are talking. I can hear them. I can't really see them, but I can hear them. They talk about how good the chili was and the good old outdoors. I've got to go to bed. I've got to go to bed. I climb in the tent, and Michael says, "Don't sleep in your clothes. You'll be too hot." And I'm thinking, right. It's 35 degrees. Take off your clothes and die naked in the woods. I've got my gun, and if any bears come, I'm going to shoot them. I'm going to shoot them till they're dead. And I put my head down on the pillow, and my nose is just about a half an inch from the side of the tent. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die to the smell of nylon. Oh, who cares? Bobo's going to miss me so much. It'd be sad to die up here. And I slowly drift off. And I'm thinking, you're not going to wake up, Howard. This is the big enchilada. You're saying goodbye. And I drift off to sleep. And then I wake up. I have no idea what time it is. It feels like 3 days have passed, but I'm awake, and I have got to pee. Oh, God, I have to pee. But I'm alive, and I have to pee. I remember I'm alive, and Steve and Mike, they wake up, and they have to pee, too. We all have to pee. This is it. We've bonded. We're alive.
You can't tell me you weren't happy to see me on that green bench in front of that old hotel.
Okay, I was somewhat pleased to see you were there.
Yes, but remember you kept hugging me and we went in to have tea and you kept kissing me on the side of my face? I knew you were glad to see me.
I have no memory of that.
I was sitting right like here and you were sitting there and you kept kissing me on the side of my face.
Well, I have no recall whatsoever. I mean, I was concentrating on the work.
Tell Mr. Patrillo about the green bench.
I have no memory of a green bench.
Yes, you do. You do. You were coming out of your hotel room one day, and I was across the street in front of the theater sitting on a green bench. And you looked across the street, and you saw me.
And what did I say? What did I do?
You said you really liked me.
Oh, now I remember. You were sitting across from the hotel on a bench, and I thought, oh, there she is. You know how you look at somebody from a distance? You know, I thought, well, she's kind of interesting. I kind of like her. And then immediately this door slammed in my face. It said, you're not here to look at people or to look at girls or to get into relationships. You're here to do the work. That's that. And I was in full agreement with that.
Yeah, well, you came across the street anyway.
Yeah, I was on my way to the theater. So there we were, working very hard. It was your typical summer theater company. You know, everybody's wanting to poke everybody.
That's it. The fooling around, right?
Not yet.
It's always fun to watch people in summer theater. They can't wait to get their clothes on.
And pair off.
Which is fine, I suppose, but it certainly wasn't what I was interested in.
Me neither.
Because the amount of work Bobo and I were doing, we continued to spend quite a bit of time together, sometimes to my annoyance.
Sometimes to complete joy.
I had this little trailer down the street from the theater. Bobo would come down sometimes and work on a script.
We'd sometimes go to lunch, or we'd have tea.
We'd have strawberry pie at this absolutely dreadful little restaurant. Anyway, it was that way throughout most of the summer. But, to answer your question, that's when it happened.
Mazel tov. My journey is over. I'm gone.
I guess you don't want to hear the details?
2 minutes. That's all. 2 minutes.
There was never anything sexual. I mean, I just wanted my privacy, but Bobo, she wanted me.
Will you stop that? You were just a friend, like any other friend.
Correct. And being just a friend, we went for a walk one day. Rolling hills, railroad tracks, and a beautiful pond. And there we were in this uninhabited area. The sun was bearing down on us. We decided that we'd go sit under this tree. It was kind of cave-like. It had all this overgrowth. We were there, 15 minutes, just chatting.
Surrounded by all this greenery.
And the smell of summer was around us. And I remember this feeling started to move through my body. It came on strong. It was very sexual. And I could feel my body being consumed by this. And I thought, oh, Lord, I gotta get out of here. This is stupid. This is not in the plan.
And I was completely unaware because I was busy running my mouth.
The urge became so strong that I finally turned to Bobo, who was about 5 feet from me. She was squatting on her haunches, as was I, like a couple of Orientals. And I turned to her, and I said, Bobo, if we don't get out of here right now, and I mean right now, I am going to make love to you. And I thought, of course, this would flush her out from under the tree. But it didn't.
Is that what you thought I would do?
Yeah, I thought you'd say, what the hell are you doing? Let's get out of here. This is ridiculous.
Well, why didn't you just take my hand and say, let's get out of here?
Well, I guess in situations like this, you just can't pause. I guess I paused. It wasn't planned. It just sort of happened. Now, I have to say that at this point, Bobo left the ground. She was in flight.
I did not.
I remember her face coming towards my face. She had left the ground.
And did what?
And she was flying through the air, coming straight at me.
And did what?
She struck my body a full blow. The side of my face hit the tree, which was just behind me. And she said, take me.
You are going to hell for such a lie.
I just kind of lost it at that point.
And what did you do?
Well, we went forward into a new world.
I was completely unaware.
Which is why she flew through the air.
I did not fly through the air.
That's the interesting point. She did fly. I can still see her shoes in the air.
I was sitting down.
But anyway, there we were, having just entered into a new relationship. We went for a walk along the tracks. There was this pond. We jumped into the water.
And we had all the summer water soaking our clothes.
We both agreed that neither of us knew what happened. But we knew it absolutely must never happen again. We were both extremely firm about that. I think again was 3 or 4 days later and periodically throughout the summer.
Until finally we were rid of each other.
Wait. You went to the Queen's coronation?
1953. I was there with some friends. Obviously, this was before I met Bobo. What a party that was.
What a party. What a piece of history. Do you realize how lucky you were to be there?
Yeah, I was lucky I wasn't arrested. Mr. Patrillo, do you have any idea what it's like to be right out of high school, traveling Europe without a care in the world? Ignoring all the world's happenings except your own? Only to one day find yourself standing on a London street corner, about to watch one of the world's most celebrated royal events, all the while thinking, gee, I wonder what celebration this is.
Hold on. You're telling me you were in England during the coronation and didn't know it was going on?
Mr. Patrillo, we'd been in Spain. And you have to remember we weren't there to read newspapers or watch television. Sure, we had a sense that something was happening.
Something? We're talking the coronation of Elizabeth, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and her other realms and territories?
That is correct. Now, to say that I was out of contact with the world is not an exaggeration. I mean, had I known that the celebration of such magnitude was taking place on the streets of London, well, I certainly would have delayed my trip for at least a week. I mean, maybe a month, who knows?
I think you're missing the picture here. First of all, this isn't just some queen throwing some shindig. For your information, she's also the Queen of Australia, the Queen of Barbados, Queen of the Bahamas, Canada, Fiji, Grenada, Jamaica, Mauritius, New Zealand, Papua, and New Guinea.
Well, Mr. Patrillo, I must say you certainly know your royalty.
Yeah, well, let's just say it's a hobby of mine.
Interesting. Now, I've never been one to promote public drunkenness, but when you find yourself in the company of several festive college students from Caracas, Sydney, Nairobi, Budapest, well, let me tell you, there's no need to manufacture an excuse for a party. The bunch of us, we'd been traveling together for the good part of a month when NIMBY suggested that we scrap our weekend plans for Paris and travel to London instead, by train.
NIMBY?
From Caracas. Don't ask me. Anyway, there we were, in London, on perhaps the busiest day of the century. 5 guys from 5 countries with at least 5 beers down the hatch. Except for NIMBY. NIMBY refused to drink beer in a taxi. So, he became my cameraman when I could no longer see over the towering heads of the people swarming the curbs around us.
Ah, so NIMBY's the one who took these pictures, not you.
Correct. At least the steady ones. And he was very good with a camera. He was tall. Now, after standing on the street corner for what I would say is at least an hour, we, the Festive Four, decided that another 3 hours on the sidewalk waiting for this event to begin would simply not work for us.
You left?
Well, just for a short time. NIMBY was holding our place. Mr. Patrillo, we jostled through the crowds and we ended up in the pub on the corner. I ordered an ale the size of my head, and I quickly found myself entwined in a conversation with a woman who had a little too much to drink, as had I, and the two of us proceeded to discuss the personal life details of Her Majesty and company. We explored everything from the Queen's hunting experiences as a girl near the Civil War battlefield of Naseby to Prince Charles spending 6 months in Timbertop Grammar School in Australia. Then it suddenly occurred to me, I didn't know the Queen's last name, or if she even had one. My mind was racing, hoping to unlock the family's last name. Philip, Charles, Anne. I mean, the beer was having an effect. My mind was straying. Groups of 3 names kept popping up. Groucho, Harpo, Chico, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Larry, Moe, and Curly. What was her last name? She had to have a last name. All famous people have a last name, Mr. Patrillo. And then I began to think about those who didn't. Napoleon, Hercules, Columbus. And what about the Queen Mother? A domestic title with no last name? Finally, Mr. Patrillo, I had to ask the question. I turned to this woman and I said, "What is the Queen's last name?" And then a wave of silence hit the room. People were looking at me, a very stern kind of a look. And I remember thinking, make a joke. Tell them that you love Winston Churchill, that he's a real snappy dresser. And I did. And then I said, look, I was just kidding. But they knew I didn't really mean it. I wasn't even a member of their country, and here I was making fun of their most valued human being, and on her big day, no less. And then, just as the crowd began to slowly turn and close in on me, someone yelled out, "The Queen's coming! The Queen is coming!" And no sooner than I could look out the window, the room had emptied. I grabbed my beer and I drank it down.
So what you're telling me is you sat in a bar while the coronation parade ceremonies were taking place just outside the door? I don't believe you.
Mr. Patrillo, nothing was taking place outside the door except for a wall of people that were not moving.
Yeah, well, if I were there, I can tell you this. I would have figured a way to make that wall move. You could have done something if you cared.
That's just it. I did care, Mr. Patrillo. I cared so much that I found a way to see the parade. I saw the gargantuan Queen Salote of Tonga, the 6-foot oceanic queen. She stole the show in the procession through the pouring rain by gallantly insisting that the landau that she was sharing with the Sultan of Calatan be kept open. She beamed at the cheering crowds as she was soaked by the afternoon rain.
Then you did see the parade.
I not only saw the parade, Mr. Patrillo, I was in the parade.
Yeah, right. In the parade.
Yeah. Now, nature was calling. I proceeded down a windy, narrow staircase to the basement below the pub's main room, where the men's room was located. Beside the kegs, past the janitorial closet, there was a gated, darkened tunnel. I hesitated for a moment, and I tried the gate. It was open. My sense of exploration piqued, and I made a quick decision to explore. 10 feet into the tunnel, I began to see small streams of light seeping down from the ceiling. And then I began hearing the faint sounds of the crowds cheering outside. I was underneath the street. I climbed my way up to the light, where I popped open the roof cover, and I climbed out. Mr. Patrillo, I found myself in the middle of the street, in the middle of the parade. I immediately jumped to my feet, and I suddenly found myself being swept along in a sea of military uniforms down the parade route, waving to the crowd, and the crowd waved back to me. And then it came to me. Windsor. Elizabeth Windsor. Charles Windsor. Anne Windsor. They were all Windsors, and I knew it. Finally, the parade ended, and I was allowed to reunite with my friends.
Yeah, well, I don't believe it.
Believe it. Look, I'm right there. Look.
Where? Where?
That's too late. You missed me. I'm gone. Oh, it really doesn't matter. I mean, the Queen saw me. Anyway, you have to understand how this situation with Bobo could bring about a lot of conflict. I mean, we had other problems to deal with without adding this. I'd leave the trailer in the morning and I'd think, I hope I don't run into her today.
And then your next thought was, I hope I do run into her today.
So we spent the summer yo-yoing like that. We had a couple of blow-ups. Once she sent me this vicious letter telling me how opportunistic I was.
It's true, he was.
I cherished those thoughts. But anyway, I was so outraged by her letter that I went to her house to tell her that she had no reason to worry any further because we are not going to continue in any fashion whatsoever. I just wanted her to know I couldn't let stand what she'd said. Then, goodbye, and I'm gone. Unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. I paused.
That kind of yo-yoing went on and on and on.
At the end of the summer, the last night, we were having this big company party, and I think Bobo and I got involved in some kind of conversation that really wasn't going well at all. I think we truly came to a separation at that point.
You were being a jerk.
A separation facilitated by the fact that the summer was over and we were going our separate ways.
And then he made this arrogant remark.
I said, I want to make one thing clear to you. I am not in love with you.
And I do not want you showing up on my doorstep in San Francisco. And I remember thinking, what would make you think you were such hot stuff that I want to show up on your doorstep?
Because it happens.
Oh, not with this one, it doesn't.
Anyway, I remember feeling enormous pressure. It really wasn't a pleasant closing to the summer. My sister, she'd come to pick me up as I left town, and I thought, oh, thank you, God, I'll never do that again. It was a mistake. Could we put about 1,000 miles between me and that town and that woman? Now, I was going to my sister's house, which was in yet another small California town. Oh, I'd go for walks, and I'd come back, I'd sit around the pool. Do you know what it's like to have a gin and tonic at 11 o'clock in the morning? It is not an unpleasant experience. When I met a girl I thought I liked, the first thing that I would do is to mentally put her on a toilet. And if I still liked her on the toilet, then I could go to step B. Well, Bobo survived the first step. So I started to mentally take away parts of her, to isolate the part I liked. Was it her body? I mean, God forbid that one would do something so drastic for another person's body. I mean, it wasn't her body. I even took away part of her personality, most of her personality, the annoying parts. And I thought, no, there's still something else. there was something deeper than all those things. And so I spent a week doing this, thinking about her. Now, I mean, I didn't make any decisions about her. I was relaxed, feeling great, that's all. I went home to San Francisco, back to my career, ready for the next big step. She was gone. It was over. Then I called her.
You called her? Why did you do that? You were home free.
Some things you never know. I knew it was going to open it all up again.
And you did it anyway.
And I did it anyway. And boy, did I open up a can of worms. But that was all water under the bridge. We had some great adventures, didn't we, Bobo?
Like the car catching on fire in Mexico? Or getting arrested as spies at that top-secret Air Force base?
You're doing it again. A to G to X and back to B. What the hell is wrong with you people? What do you mean, you were arrested as spies?
Oh, that's another story.
Everything's another story.
Ah, but not like this one. Bobo and I were invited to do a play together at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego.
Okay, but in order. In order.
We decided it would be more economical to drive down together instead of flying. Besides, we could drive through the desert.
I'd always wanted to see the desert.
Bobo's always wanted to see the desert in the middle of July. It was hot, and we were dressed in shorts. And I had on this Hawaiian shirt, a big straw hat, white running shoes. I looked great. Bobo, I think she had on some blue shorts.
Lime green.
And some sort of big straw hat.
Yeah, with a scarf.
And we drove through the desert, enjoying the scenery. And we came across this big sign that said, Edwards Air Force Base.
And we thought, let's go down and see what's there.
Sure. I mean, it was just kind of a ribbon of a road going through the desert. There was nothing on either side but lizards and those rolling weed balls. Why not? So we drove along for about 15 miles.
We saw very few cars.
Finally, we see, way up ahead of us, this guardhouse. And we're driving this old Mercedes. It's a 1950-something. I don't know what it is. It has these big fins on the back. I mean, we look like a couple of tourists. And these cars, they're pulling up to this guard gate. The guard, he's saluting some cars, waving some through. He's pulling some over so he can check their identification. Everybody's saluting. It just looks great. Very military. And we're coming up and we think, well, we'll stop and we'll chat with the guard. Maybe he can tell us where the canteen is. We could go there and see what kind of stuff they've got.
Check out the gift shop.
So we approach the gate. And it just so happens the guard is busy talking to one of the other cars that he stopped. He's got him in the next lane. So we stopped. And we wait a little bit.
Well, it was just sort of a rolling stop. We rolled up to the word stop that was painted in large letters on the ground just past this little house.
Right, the little house on the prairie. The guardhouse. And no one was doing anything or saying anything. So I kind of put my foot on the accelerator and we started to creep past the big stop.
And then there was this little line, too.
So I'm crawling along, waiting for the guard to say, "Halt! Who goes there?"
But we're past the guardhouse by now.
We're in the base. And we're both looking back in our mirrors, waiting for the guard to do something. Wave us back, draw his gun. But he never does.
Just like that, you went onto a military base.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't believe you people. What's next? Sneaking in the White House?
Oh, that's another story. So I sort of give this little wave, and zoom, off we go. We head into the base, and it's great. We drove around, we saw all sorts of buildings, marching soldiers. We saw how our tax money was being spent.
There were no marching soldiers. He's thinking of Gomer Pyle.
There were marching soldiers. You didn't see them because you were busy powdering your nose.
I do not powder my nose.
Well, maybe you should. It would give you something to do instead of interrupting me all the time. And then we saw this area.
I do not interrupt you.
The sign said, top security, level 5 clearance only. There was nobody around, so we just kind of drove on through, and we came upon this fenced-in area. And lo and behold, there on the other side of the fence is this plane. I mean, this is a plane I've never seen before. It's all black. It's shaped like a wedge. There are no markings on it of any kind. And we're looking at it, and I'm thinking, hey, this is a top-secret airplane. This is kind of nifty stuff. So I get out of the car, and I go over to the fence, And I said to Bobo, "Hey, Bobo, come on, get out of the car. Come and take a look at this plane. That's a top secret plane." I mean, this was fantastic. Oh, yeah. And yeah, Bobo's looking, but she really couldn't care.
It's a plane.
She's with me. That's all she cares about.
I'm finding the desert wonderful.
She's with me, and everything's wonderful in the desert. So we get back in the car, and we drive to other areas. We're driving around for, 40 minutes. We're coming to various other areas with similar restricted signs. We saw more planes, some of them camouflaged.
And then this car pulls up.
And then this car pulls up. It's obviously military personnel.
So I waved to the guy. Hi, how you doing?
And he rolls down his window, and he's looking at me, and the look on his face is, something's not right here. I think, oh, maybe we're not supposed to be in this area or something. He says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, we're just looking at the planes, the black ones with no markings." And he says, "You're what? How did you get in here?" And I said, "Whoa, we drove in. Is that all right?" And he says, "You get into your car and you get behind me. You do not do anything but follow me. You don't turn, you don't stop, you don't do anything. You just stick with me, all right?" Well, yeah, right, no problem here. So we do that. And he throws on his flashers, and off he goes, and off we go behind him. And he's looking at us through his rear view mirror, and I'm thinking, gee, should I kind of wave at him? I mean, I don't know. He seems kind of tense. So we drive for about 5 minutes. And of course, Bobo and I, we're enjoying the sights, the planes, new restricted areas. And he finally leads us back to the guardhouse. And I thought, oh, I guess they're going to throw us out. And then we're told to get out of the car and go inside the building, which we do. And now there's more military personnel inside. They're all really tense. Something is not right here. These guys are not having any fun. And now I'm not having any fun.
I was having fun.
And this captain, or something, I don't know what he was, he says to me,
How did you get on the base? What do you mean you drove on? Wasn't there a guard here?
and I said, well, yeah, there was. But he was talking with someone else. I mean, we kind of stopped and waited for him, sir, but, you know, he didn't turn around or anything, so we thought, well, I guess it's okay then. So we just kind of drove on. And he said, what did he look like? What did the guard look like? Well, he was kind of a young guy. I mean, they're all young at the gate.
And he was wearing green.
And then he told us to get out our identification. And I thought, this is it. They think we're spies. I'm in a Hawaiian shirt and a big straw hat. I'm a perfect spy. And then it became silent, except for a few of the big brass guys whispering in the corner. Then the one with all the stripes, he came over to me, and I figured, well, I might as well show him that there's no hard feelings on our part. And I said, you know, trying to be friendly, oh, by the way, while we're here, tell me, is there a tour of the base? And he said, no. There is no tour of Edwards Air Force Base. This is a military facility. There are no public tours. And I said, right. And then he took me in a room. I mean, there was just the two of us alone. And we sat across the table from one another. He began to fire questions at me. The hows, the whys, the didn't you knows. I mean, I could tell he didn't believe my story. And soon I was beginning to doubt my story. I mean, you just wandered onto the base? Give me a break. I knew what he was doing. He wanted a confession, and he wouldn't give up until I gave him one. But I wouldn't break. And then finally, after hours of questioning...
10 minutes.
Hours. It was hours, Bobo.
Fine, whatever.
Then the questions stopped. There were no more questions to ask. So we just sat there, and then I thought, this is it. If something is going to happen, it's going to happen now. If he wants to attack me or kill me, to rid himself of this potentially career-damaging person, he could do it and no one would ever know. I mean, they'd probably kill Bobo, too. She knew too much. He could say I choked on my own saliva, or I broke my neck while trying to escape through the window. Anything was possible. So there we were just sitting there, staring at each other. And then I noticed something, and all my attention focused on it.
What?
I hadn't noticed it before, yet there it was, plain as day. It was all I could think of.
I'm not doing this again.
This one small incidental thing that had no relevance.
What? What?
There, sticking out of the center of his forehead, was the longest, the thickest, ugliest hair I had ever seen. I mean, this thing must have been 2 inches long. You could have tied a bow on it. There it was, just hanging there, swaying from side to side every time he moved his head. Didn't he know it was there? Didn't it ever cross his mind that it resembled a knife stuck in his brow? Maybe it was there on purpose. Maybe it wasn't a hair. Maybe, just maybe, it was some sort of new high-tech microphone I'd never heard of. You never know with these guys. And then, my focus drops below his brow, and I see in his eyes that he too has come to the understanding that this is it. Whatever's going to happen, this is the moment. And I remember being concerned. I was somewhat anxious that he was going to jump from his chair in a split second and clutch his military-trained killer hands around my throat. I could blink and it'd all be over. I was the enemy. He wanted me gone. And I remember my heart was pounding. And the longer the silence went on, the worse it got. And that hair was waving back and forth. And then I thought, maybe it's there to hypnotize me. Neither of us said anything. It was just this silence, and we were just looking at each other. I thought, my God, he must be able to see my heart pounding. There was ringing in my ears, and all he's doing is just looking at me. He's convinced now. He knows I'm a spy. But from what country? Who would be so bold as to send a man in a Hawaiian shirt and a straw hat? And I thought, well, just watch his eyes. If his eyes change, then you'll know what he'll do. You'll know that you'll have a split second to react, to try every karate move you've ever seen on late-night movie shows. Remember the yell. You gotta have the yell. They all yell. And the tension built, and it built, and we just stared at each other. And I thought, the tension is getting so high that it's going to force somebody to do something, because all this energy has got to go somewhere. And I'm watching him, and he's watching me, and I think, this is it. Any second, you'll see something in his eyes. Then just go. Do whatever it is you have to do. And it just held and held and held. And we were both trapped. And then, just like an almost imperceptible click, he blinked. And I lunged forward and I ripped that hair right out of its plug hole. And then the door opened. And the commanding officer entered. He motioned for me to stand. He said, "We're free to go." They believed us. We weren't spies. We weren't spies. And so I stood up.
You mean like this?
And slowly walked towards the door.
You mean like this?
And then out into the free world.
Like this?
We were free. We were free.
I'm free!
Oh, look, Mr. Patrillo dropped something. It's his business card.
No kidding. What does it say?
It gives his name and home telephone number.
You know what that means, don't you?
Won't he be surprised? I think he liked us.
I do too. Maybe he'll invite us over for coffee.
And we can tell him about the time the car blew up in Mexico.
I'll tell the story.
And I'll help. And then maybe about the fire in Arizona.
Which fire?
Right there, that building.
Oh, is that a fire? I wonder how that happened.
Howard.
How about we put on another reel?
Yes, let's.
Hawaii 1965. I loved you by that bridge.
That wasn't me.
Too bad.
the stitch in my side when I run. You're the rain cloud in the sky that covers up the sun. Though I see right through you, you still get to me. There ain't no doubt about the woman, the one that I love. Oh, the one that I love. Oh, the one that I love. Oh, the one that I love. You're the sun in my eyes when I see. You're the story in my heart that always makes me weep. Though I see right through you, you still get to me. There ain't no doubt about the woman, the one that I love. Oh, the one that I love. Oh, the one that I love.